Indoor, December 2019. India versus Bangladesh. Quicks take 19 of the 25 wickets to fall. Mayank Agarwal makes 243 as India go close to 500. India win by an innings and 130 runs. The pitch is rated very good by the ICC. Indoor, March 2023. India versus Australia. Spinners take 27 of the 31 wickets to fall. Only one India batter makes it past 30. Australia win by 9 wickets. The pitch is rated poor by the ICC. Spitting turners, 2-day finishes, seam bowling and afterthought. This is the way it once was in India and the way it is now. But the greatest period in their test history coincided with pitches that allowed for big totals and that rewarded skillful bowling of all disciplines. So, what's changed? Let's take in a brief history lesson. In 2015, South Africa turned up for the first home series of Virat Kohli's captaincy. The Proteas had earned a reputation as the game's grittiest tourists, their last series defeat on the road having come all the way back in 2006. In India, that came to an end. South Africa made a high score of 214 across 4 tests. India fared little better, only passing 300 once. India's spinners claimed 61 of the 69 South African wickets to fall to bowlers, with R. Ashwin and Ravindra Jadeja taking 54 wickets and an average of 11 between them. The Nagpur pitch for the third test, in which 652 runs were scored across all 4 innings, was rated poor. Kohli fumed in the aftermath at a perceived double standard. Well, there have been 3 scores of under 50 runs in South Africa, but I haven't seen any sort of articles on that. Teams have been bundled out 100 for about 6 times in South Africa, he said. The situation in our country is highlighted a bit too much, and that's a fact. Because the only thing we talk about is the pitch, and when we were in South Africa, the only thing we talked about was how badly we played. We are criticised for our techniques, but when visitors don't play well, it's always the wicket. The subtext being, we're going to make the most of home advantage just as other countries do. However, the pitches in India did change after that. India whitewashed New Zealand, beat England 4-0 in a 5-match series, and took down Bangladesh in a one-off test. They crossed 300 in each of their first innings and 400 in all but 2. They were still reliant on their spinners. Ashwin and Jadeja claimed 95 of their 147 wickets, but big scores were still possible. In the England series, Alistair Cook's side lost 4-0 despite registering 3 400-plus first innings scores across the series. Then Australia came to visit, and things shifted again. The Pune pitch, having built a reputation as one of the flattest in the land, was turned into a minefield. India were O'Keefed, the Aussie left-armer, taking twin 6 for 35s as they were skittled for 105 and 107. For the first time since 2012, India had lost a test match at home. The surface was rated poor. Kohli once more didn't have an issue with it. I don't think it was any different from the turners that we played on in the past, he said. We just didn't play good cricket. This is part of the issue here, separating fact from fiction, press conference gamesmanship from unguarded honesty. You have to glean what you can and infer the rest. And slowly, the pitches in India began to flatten out again. The second test pitch was still tricky, with no side making it to 300, and India defending 187 comfortably. The third test saw India respond to 451 with 603 for 9. In the fourth, both sides passed 300 in the first innings. From then on, Indian pitches rewarded all aspects of cricket, with seamers, spinners and batters all able to cash in if they played well enough. First test after the Australia tour was dominated by quicks, with Sri Lanka drawing a rain-affected test when 75 for 7, chasing 231, with India having been bowled out for 172 in the first innings. From that point in November 2017 until England's visit in early 2021, India were bowled out just twice, for 474 by Afghanistan and for 367 by the West Indies. They won 9 tests out of 10. In India, Umesh Yadav, Mohammad Shami and Ishant Sharma all averaged less than 20 with the ball, and less than Ashwin and Jadeja. This period coincided with India's growing competitiveness away from home, culminating with a 2-1 series win in Australia. Even with their opponents deprived of Steve Smith and David Warner, it confirmed India's place as the best side in the world and gave Kohli a statement victory after close defeats in South Africa and England. India had built up a group of quicks to compare to any in the world, and their home tracks had plenty to do with that. Since then, fortunes have taken another turn. India's total of exactly 400 in the first Australia test was their second biggest home total since 2019. Spin has dominated both bat and seam. There was a 2-day test against England, while the current series against Australia only saw a 4th day in the 4th and final test. There are 3 things at play here, 2 on the surface and 1 underlying. The first is, at the start of this stretch, India lost a home test match. England turned up fresh off a whitewash over Sri Lanka. Joe Root, in the form of his life, racked up a double hundred on a flat pitch. Don Bess winkled out 4 wickets, and James Anderson turned on the reverse swing pyrotechnics on the last day. It was the kind of performance India put in routinely, but this time it came against them. It remains their only home defeat in the last decade, on a surface not rated poor. This, it seems, spooked India, and for the rest of the series, their spinners held sway. After making 578 in the first innings of the series, England had a top score of 205 in their next 7 goes. India's spinners claimed 67 of the 80 wickets. India had backed themselves to outbat and outbowl other sides on flat pitches. After that first test, it seemed they could no longer be confident of doing so, and so elected to outspin them instead. The second factor is the World Test Championship. New Zealand reaching a draw 9 wickets down at Kanpur to kick off the 2021-23 cycle might have been a less dramatic result than England's Chennai shellacking, but it has been just as influential. With draws worth a third as many points as a win, results are at a premium, and surfaces have followed suit. There is a huge premium on results, Rahul Dravid said before the 4 Test match against Australia. You draw a game like Kanpur against New Zealand where you take 9 wickets in the second innings. You draw that game and that sets you back in a home game. Every team is getting results at home or are putting in really good performances at home, so there's a premium on results. You get 4 points for a draw and you get 12 for a win, so there's a premium on that, no question about it. India's 2 home draws in the current World Test Championship cycle, against New Zealand in Kanpur and against Australia at Ahmedabad, had as much of a role in India nearly not qualifying for the World Test Championship final as their defeat at Indore. Had Sri Lanka beaten New Zealand 2-0 in New Zealand, and they were only 2 balls away from going 1-0 up in that series, Sri Lanka would have qualified for the final in their place. A win and a loss is better than 2 draws in the current point system. A win and a loss gets you 12 points, 2 draws get you 8 points. You can see how teams are incentivised to produce result pitches. The underlying factor, and the thing that makes what they do next hard to work out, is that India are not as good as they once were. Looking back all the way to Kohli's first series as captain, India have played on good batting tracks against teams they can back themselves to outplay, and on spinning tracks against the rest. South Africa in 2015, Australia in 2017, England in 2021, and Australia in 2023. Now, the former category might be shrinking. Kohli's struggles are much discussed, as are those of KL Rahul. Mayank Agarwal, once a significant factor in their home dominance, has fallen away, as has Ajinkya Rahane. Rahane has argued it's the home surfaces that have led to his drop in performances, but really, causation is the other way around. And in the bowling department, Bumrah is now injured more often than not. Ishant has likely played his last test. Umesh is 35 and Shami 32. Ashwin is 36 and Jadeja is 34. Mohammad Siraj apart, it's not clear who will be in India's bowling attack in 3 years' time. The pitch for the Ahmedabad test suggests a return to the good pitches of the 2017 to 2019 period, and India should hold firm even if they don't instantly resume their past dominance. India's surfaces have been inextricably linked to their performances, and as their greatest era fades, it's the pitches that reward all cricketers that will allow the next one to be founded. The World Test Championship final could mark a clean break for India, when the likes of Shubman Gill and Yashasvi Jaiswal can establish themselves as the rightful heirs to the thrones of Kohli and Rohit, and the new generation of quicks can be unearthed. It might take time, but if India can establish another great side, it will be worth it.